OG Gary properly says, as the Big 12 burns, let's talk about it. Right here on the Monty Show, it was a bad day for the Big 12 yesterday, as the Big 12 made several key announcements, including the delay of their Big 12 Mexico expansion project because of Big 12 expansion, adding 4 universities. You look at this situation we're going to talk about at the University of Arizona with Bobby Robbins stepping down, the less than stellar run through the NCAA tournament for the Big 12. Yesterday was kind of the culmination of a bunch of bad news, and it begs the question, is it instability in the Big 12, or are these just normal occurrences that come with growing and expanding a conference? I think it is probably the latter, but there are enough people in the world who love themselves a conspiracy theory that say these are signs of weakness. There's cracking in the facade of the Big 12. Jake, which is it? Is the Big 12 just going through growing pains, or is the Big 12 dealing with instability?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that the Big 12 is a conference that, is trying desperately to win both on the football field and on the basketball court. And they're only trying to do that because they know that's their security blanket for the future. We've seen this time and time again. If you win, you're going to be in a good spot no matter what the situation is, because you're going to have TV audience. And so I think, when you don't win, I think that obviously, it doesn't help you. And I think that the Big 12 had high hopes coming into the tournament this year, and it just hasn't worked out. And it's really unfortunate. And so all the Big 12 haters are saying, oh man, what a garbage tournament. The Big 12 isn't even close to being the best basketball conference. How could they be? So you've got that whole conversation at work. This Bobby Robbins situation, while it's not necessarily a Big 12 problem per se, it's just not a great look to have one of the schools in your conference who's joining your conference this coming year having these financial problems. And I don't know how else you spin it. I don't know how else you spin the situation at Arizona into a good thing. That's the hard part. Arizona is not exactly in a great place right now, and they're supposed to be one of your best basketball programs. And, obviously they had, an okay run in the tournament again. So I are they cracks in the facade? I mean, I wouldn't say they're cracks in the facade yet. I just think that if you continue year after year for like 3-4 years in a row to not produce in the tournament, let's say, or if somehow you don't have strong representation in the first year of the expanded college football playoff, then we can pretty much say, yeah, that's some weakness for sure. But we're not there yet. And I think people are putting the cart before the horse on that. I think it's premature.
I think the Bobby Robbins thing is a bigger deal than people are letting on. And I know that we've talked about this situation with the financial discrepancy, $240 million of a discrepancy at Arizona. But let's talk about what Bobby Robbins is and was. Bobby Robbins was an incredibly important figure in leadership, first trying to save the Pac-12, and then, as though he were Moses, leading a group of Pac-12 universities to the Big 12. I think Bobby Robbins was an incredibly important figure in that situation. I think that when you have a guy of that leadership, he is a guy that had incredible sway amongst his peers. I think that this financial issue really crippled him. And I think when he tells, and for those of you who didn't see the announcement, Bobby Robbins yesterday essentially made the announcement to Arizona staff that he was stepping down, and his term runs through the end of June 2026. But he made very clear that if the Arizona Board of Regents finds a appropriate candidate before such time, that he will help build a bridge to bring that new candidate in, and then will leave when that candidate is ready to fully take the reins at the University of Arizona. And I think that candidate's probably going to be Michael Crow. One of the first things that I heard yesterday from a source that we talked to pretty regularly was that Michael Crow wants to run both Arizona and Arizona State. Now, I think that's absurd, but I think that Michael Crow will make that push.
Mhm.
We'll see what happens. We'll cross that bridge when it burns down. But I think you look at Bobby Robbins, this is a big loss for the Big 12. I don't think there's any other way to slice it. He's a leader. He's respected. He's somebody that is, in my opinion, a pretty savvy operator. And I think he's somebody that really was passionate and cared and loved the University of Arizona.
Yeah, and I think he was one of the only people in the Pac-12 that was willing to talk on a regular basis. He was someone who spoke a lot about the issues at play and didn't really beat
Yeah.
around the bush, if you will. And I think that's why a lot of people respected him. And look, I think that, at least for me, as a person, like I don't think that Bobby Robbins has taken a hit here on a personal level, but I think that when someone makes that kind of mistake under your watch, like even if you had nothing to do with the mistake outside of the fact that you were the person running the program, you're the fall guy. You're the guy that's got to take that fall and take the accountability so the school can move on. And that's just as simple as it is. And the problem is for the Big 12, you're bringing this school in with the other three, and it's like, damn, dude, like when does Arizona really get back on its feet? Because the football program was going the right direction. Then obviously Jed took the Washington job. Obviously this money situation. The basketball team didn't exactly light it up in the tournament. They did make the tournament though, which I think is an important fact. So it's not like things are horrible, but it's also not like things are going in the most positive
Things are not
direction.
good. It's not that things are horrible, but things certainly are not good.
Yeah.
It's tough to spin that. And I think if you look at the plight of the exiting members of the Pac-12, there's instability all over the place. The one university that has zero instability or issues, Oregon. I look at Washington, my God, how many changes can one athletic department go through? You look at Washington State, Pat Chun took the fucking Washington job.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy to me, right? Like, you look at the instability at Oregon State and Washington State. Okay, I can understand that. Massive change at UCLA, massive instability, questions, lack of execution at USC, both in basketball and in football. You look at Washington, as I mentioned, like this has been a very difficult change. You look at what's going on at Arizona, they are far from prosperity in their athletic department. And now you have Bobby Robbins walking away from Arizona, walking away, pushed out, like don't let the door hit you, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll ever know the true reality of it. But you look at the exiting members of the Pac-12, there's a lot of instability in that group. A lot. And I think that it is not an easy transition. And I think that's why you look at the leadership of Taylor Randall and Mark Harlan at Utah, and it is a beam of light, dude. Like that. I know I sit here every day, it feels like, and defend Utah. There's a reason that program is stable, because they have great leadership. And I look at Colorado. I mean, it's just not an easy thing to do, to leave your conference and go to another conference. Ask Stanford and Cal.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about instability. You jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire of the ACC. It is the Pac-12, and it largely they did it to themselves. But the Pac-12 is in this position where now all of their members are going to have to go and essentially start from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Other than, I think, USC and Oregon, because USC, the beat just keeps on going.
Well, and I think when you look at USC and Oregon, obviously they've kept their head coaches, they've kept their programs intact for the most part, and I think that's what's important when you're going to a new conference. If you're going to go to a new conference, you have to do it in a way where your head coach of your football program is committed to that program for at least 3 years. And I think that ideally it'd be 5, but at least 3. And I think that's why Colorado's had success. I don't think that anybody was like, oh man, Colorado basketball is going to make this long and prodigious run through the tournament, but they made the tournament. And I think that's what matters. And so yeah, I think that changing conferences isn't easy, but I also think that the Big 12, their biggest problem isn't even the schools coming into their conference. Their biggest problem is the brands that have been in the conference forever, letting them down,
Sure.
seemingly the last 3 to 5 years. And that's got to get fixed, because if you can figure out, again, as we always talk about, the Texas Techs of the world, if those schools become a little more reliable for you and they can figure it out, it makes the new guys struggling a bit a little more palatable. But when you have the current members, the new members struggling, Big 12 Mexico gets delayed because you added those schools, the tournament didn't really pan out for you, you haven't really made a huge splash in the college football playoff yet. Like, I'm just simply saying that it's not that the Big 12 is burning down. It's just simply that you're not excelling right now. And I think it's an important time to be trying to push forward as much as possible.
And I again say, you look at the change in college football, it is destabilizing. You look at the Big 12. The Big 12 was supposedly one of the winners of expansion. And I say, I look at losing Texas and Oklahoma. There's no way that is not destabilizing, right? I look at, again, I talk about all the exiting members of the Pac-12. Look at San Diego State. San Diego State, I don't know that San Diego State any longer has a football program. I believe they've decided to just burn Snap Puppy Stadium to the ground.
Right.
I'm pretty certain. And they're just going to be a basketball school, because all they have is stability in basketball, and who the hell knows what's going on in the football program.
Right.
Even though, JD Wicker was said to be the greatest athletic director in the history of the world last year.
Just incredible.
And, they never got the pro rata they deserved. But my point is, I look at San Diego State, they were probably better off staying in the Mountain West. If we look at all of the minutia of Pac-12 expansion, death, you're gone, out of here. The San Diego State storyline might be that you wound up in the best spot by not leaving at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's going to be a very interesting 2-year period here for the Big 12, for the ACC, for the Mountain West, certainly. We'll see what happens.
Well, look at San Diego State's basketball program, right?
Phenomenal.
It's really good. And, you're overachieving. And I think that's important for schools like San Diego State. When you're a G5, you need to excel in basketball. You have to have that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, because that football is not going to be, some huge, money generating proposition. Right. In San Diego State's case, obviously, it's been well documented that they're trying to get more attendance at Snapdragon. They're trying to get, that
you got to figure out the football program.
Yeah, like you just do. And once you do that, you'll be fine. But yeah, I don't know, man. Brett Yormark has to be very cognizant of where his conference is at right now in the big picture. And that is simply that you just need to keep on improving in athletics. If you can just simply show up in the college football playoff, you're going to be fine. But if you miss the playoff altogether, that's obviously a different conversation. And I think that's what's most important right now.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see. I think it's a very interesting, this Bobby Robbins story. This is not good. It's not good for anybody. And I agree that Bobby should have lost his job over what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any doubt as much. You can like and respect somebody. But what you cannot do is have financial malfeasance.
Right.
You cannot have a lack of ethics and oversight to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
It just cannot happen. And I don't think we'll ever know what happened. I truly don't think we'll ever know what happened. People have been fired for it. Bobby is probably falling on the sword for it. We will never know exactly where that money went. And maybe it was just, somebody forgot to update the abacus. Sure, certainly that could be it. The abacus is a little tool that you used to use.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And stuff. You millennials, you don't get it. Anyway, my point is, Bobby Robbins not being in the big chair at Arizona is a loss for the Big 12. There's no way to spin that.
100%.
There's no way to spin that.
And I think, business wise, like Bobby's always been somebody that leaders of conferences consult with. And I think that, that's where you lose a lot of value if you're Brett,
I can tell you, as somebody that was embroiled in the Pac-12 drama and we talked to so many of his peers during that process. Him and Taylor Randall at Utah were two of the most influential voices. And you'll remember the timing of the Pac-12 disintegration. Like, hey, we're here. We loved it, but we'd love to. Well, okay, we're going to the Big 12. Like that tipping point. Bobby Robbins and Taylor Randall were the two loudest voices and the most influential characters by most assessments in that situation. And the leadership that Bobby Robbins showed and the lack of leadership that Michael Crow, the president of Arizona, displayed in that last, the night before meeting, that's why Bobby Robbins is so well respected.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a loss, man. There's no way to spin that. I mean, he didn't lose and you didn't lose the way that I lost on Prize Picks last night, but it's a loss for the Big 12. I don't know how to move on other than to say, fuck the Chicago White Sox. Sons of biscuits.
Thank you for cursing more. I know that we got some feedback about, needing to curse more on the show. So just wanted to fulfill that today.
Last night on Prize Picks, speaking of cursing, I'd been on this run. I want to, I run whatever it was, the hundreds of dollars the other night.
Right.
Pimps are going to pimp.
Right.
I bought some, faux fur collared jackets.
Right. You were styling and profiling.
A new fedora.
Right.
I got diamond crusted grills. Like I'm here for it.
That's right.
Pimps are going to pimp, right?
Yeah.
The hoes know.
Yeah.
And so, the other day, your boy with Mookie Betts, Ronald Acuna Jr., Christopher Morel, who can't catch baseballs at third base. Like we went 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Feeling good.
So now we move from faux fur to like actual fox fur, right? Like now we've got collars and we're popping those collars, right? We're wearing diamond crusted gold. We've got the Breitling on the wrist, right? So let's stay hot and go Max Muncy for 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. He don't miss, man. He came through. But then we got to talk about Ronald Acuna Jr. against the Chicago White Sox. 1.5 total bases. Just 1.5 total bases. 0. Not like half, not 1, 0.
And it sucks.
And then the ultimate mistake, and here's where rectally things took a turn in the wrong direction.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
When you count on the St. Louis Cardinals to do anything of note,
what are you doing?
When you say to yourself, let's let Bobby Robbins handle our accounting, and
what are you talking about, man?
And bet it all on Miles Michaelis to not stick it in my keister.
I don't regret those decisions.
Miles Michaelis and you, Darvish. You got to pause. You, Darvish. 10 strikeouts.
Okay, that seems pretty attainable.
Combined. Did they get 11? No. Did they get 9? No. You know how many they got? 10.
I just try to stand strong.
And who, what did I do to you, Miles Michaelis? What did I ever do to you? Son of a biscuit. Lost 2 or 3 last night. Because Miles Michaelis.
Why don't you fuck off?
Birds on the bat.